All the ebbs and flows that make Test cricket the spectacle it is. India dared. For a brief moment, India almost dreamed, but as it stands at the end of day 4 in Bengaluru, India appear to have been denied by New Zealand, who are closing in on their first ever Test win in India since 1988. Sanjay Manjrekar joins us on ESPNcricinfo Match Day. And Sanjay, before we analyze what's going on, what an absolutely riveting day of Test cricket.
Absolutely, and great test match as well. We saw a team get all out on 46 and then getting more than 400 runs in the second innings, and that is why when you see matches like this, I know it's a format that is not too relevant, not the most popular, but long-lived test cricket because you saw the kind of tension on the faces of the people in the crowd in the stadium, plus Bumrah's, intensity and all the emotions, and just that, players just care about Test cricket a lot more because they know the performance is there, and whatever result you get just stays in the minds a lot longer and just unscripted. Anything can happen, and in many ways a test and reflection of life that you get a second chance. And what a second innings performance by India.
And if you look at this day, perhaps the good sign is that it's a lot of the younger players who've been the headline makers. There were two for India who exhilarated and how, but their storyline will have to wait just a bit because of the events of the second half of the day, Sanjay. The second new ball coming in and undoing all the good work that India had done before that.
And yes, we tend to focus on India for obvious reasons, but there's so much to like about New Zealand, the way they batted in the first innings, Conway and Rachin, and tactically as well. I mean, I know there was some help for the fast bowlers in that morning session, but the way they bowled, gave nothing to India. The catches they took were brilliant. Tactically, team selection as well. When they came here, a lot of foreign teams have come in with 3 or 4 spinners. They stuck to their strengths, played 3 seam bowlers, despite knowing that this is Bangalore and the pitch will eventually turn. And the seam bowlers did the job with the first new ball in the first innings and with the second new ball in the second innings. So they backed their strength, their quality bowlers, and boy, did they deliver.
Yes, if you take the first new ball and the damage it caused on the opening day's action, and now the second new ball spell, it's 17 wickets that India have lost for 100 runs because 54 for 7 in the second innings. Chief architects, yet again, O'Rourke and Matt Henry. What is it that they did with the new ball, and where were India lacking once that second new ball came into play?
I think at a club level, I learned one very important lesson with a senior captain who was captaining the team, and there was this big partnership that was happening, and both guys, batters were playing brilliantly and almost, chasing down a big target that we had set. And he said that our hope is only when we get when those batters get into the 90s or get their 100, something changes. And with Rishabh Pant, what changed was the fact that they got the fielders in. He was batting on 99, and that really got him to play that particular shot, and that opened the gates. And somewhere, again, the extra bounce of O'Rourke has made a difference. The way he got out KL Rahul too. So just brilliant bowling, I thought, by New Zealand. And once that second new ball came in with its hardness, the Bangalore pitch, although had died down to the slightly old ball, came alive. So there was again that little help that New Zealand got, and only little was enough this time in the second innings. So you've got to applaud New Zealand for the way they bowled.
So, considering that the help on offer this time, even when the second new ball came in, was far reduced, how much of the blame lies with India's middle order batters, the likes of Rahul, Jadeja, and Ashwin, who probably needed to stay in for just that little bit to get India's lead beyond 150?
Yes, you expect them to get run, but this is a slightly different proposition for people like Ashwin and Jadeja down the order because very rarely do you see, um, a pitch of this kind and bowlers of this kind who was still. It was almost like they were batting in overseas conditions, and I'm never sort of very expectant or hard on batters who come in and get out. And Ashwin, did what he does best. And attack is now the way for all, players almost to rise to the challenge. So I don't have too much of a problem with that. how can you criticize Sarfaraz-Khan as well for the shot that he played, because it was a calculated risk and he was batting on 150, so can't fault that as well. Rishabh Pant 99, the way he got out, so can't really say that the Indian batting order blundered or played poorly. India's just paying a price for what they did in the first innings.
That leaves one batter from that mix of the Indian middle order, and he is one who's been used to playing the new ball in Test cricket. This was a chance for KL Rahul.
Yes, and came in at a difficult time. Second new ball on pitch that had something, in the sense there was a bounce. I don't think there was too much of lateral movement. And a lot of people are very excited with the talent that this young fast bowler, 6'8" O'Rourke has. So Tim Southee's experience, Matt Henry ever probing. So it was going to be tough for somebody who's almost like fighting for his place. And that's the worst situation for a cricketer to be in. Um, yeah, it was a good ball, but he's in a bit of a rut, isn't he, KL Rahul? So came in at a difficult time, and seems like time is running out for him. You had to feel sorry for him more than anything else at the time that he came into bat.
Yeah, well done to New Zealand, especially O'Rourke for what ends up being a mighty impressive haul on his first test in India. But we must, while it's papered over the events of the first few hours, we can't not look back at that passage of play, Sanjay. And I want you to take over here and talk us through what you felt as for those few hours, Rishabh Pant and Sarfaraz Khan took Test match batting to a different level.
Yeah, it was a bit like Ram Lakhan ki jodi. Very, massy kind of entertainment. Tells you a lot about modern day batters, a lot about this generation, a lot about the country as to the kind of confidence that they have, and the youth that doesn't play by the rules, by convention. Sarfaraz Khan, which I tweeted, showed a finger to the Mumbai school of batting with the way he batted, but there was tremendous ball sense involved. And when the runs were sort of blocked and they had a feel for those, boundaries that he was getting at third, and you just watched the shot that he played to get to his 100. And that tells you a lot about Sarfaraz Khan. So he's not somebody who'll only score in that area. He just has this tremendous knack of getting runs, got 100 and wanted to get more. Rishabh Pant, again, you see Pant batting, and what a partnership that was, because this was Test cricket, and this was completely against the template in which Test cricket is played. But they did the job. To expect even more would be a little unfair. And that shot that he played against Tim Southee, I mean, Test cricket has been around for a long time. So when you say history, you're talking about a long history. And from all the shots that I remember, whatever I remember, that ranks as one of the best shots that I've seen in Test cricket against a quality bowler, and the ball landing on the roof there. I mean, incredible. It was almost like a sweep. So it was tremendous entertainment and great, great advertisement for Test cricket.
Got one question each on both of them. For Pant, this is now a seventh score in the 90s. It's an odd ailment for a batter who bats so freely.
I was watching his reaction very closely, and you saw that he wasn't too affected by it. Maybe the new generation doesn't care so much about milestones, and we've seen that numerous times with Pant, not when he's got out, but on occasions where he hasn't cared so much about reaching his 100, like that 100 he got in South Africa, where he was happy to not take singles, even when he was in the 90s, because he was focused on the bigger goal for the team. So maybe this generation thinks a little different, and it's a good thing that he's not too concerned about getting hundreds, because Indian cricket has had a history of batters being too concerned about milestones, and sometimes that hasn't helped Indian cricket. So I was watching his reaction very closely. He was disappointed that he didn't nail it, but didn't seem tremendously disappointed. And the kind of shots that he played, and to go from 90 to 96 with the six, shows that he doesn't care about getting out in the 90s. We had Virendra Sehwag as one of the first guys, and good to see Pant a bit like that.
There's been a lot of chatter on Sarfaraz Khan, despite not having evidence, at least on the international front, about his possible frailties when it comes to faster surfaces, when it comes to bouncier surfaces. I know there'll be very different conditions, but on the evidence of this innings and how he handled the New Zealand pace attack, would you be more optimistic about his chances were he to get a look in Australia?
Good question and good point, and he must get a look in because I was uh, very happy to see the way he played fast bowling, and he's played fast bowling before as well against England. But this was a pitch that was very similar to some of the foreign pitches that we get, where there is a bit of pace and bounce. Interestingly, I'm just imagining him on a flatter pitch in Australia where there isn't much of seam movement, because if there is seam movement, the Australian bowlers will pitch the ball up. That's the length he's got to work on. But anything that is short of laying outside the off stump, he's going to give migraines to those fast bowlers, because the shots that he plays, that there's a lot of certainty, there is certain calmness. And if you saw the close up of Sarfaraz, he watches the ball almost onto his bat. And these are shots that he must have played a number of times. And he must have a tremendous eye, great hand-eye coordination. His technique isn't bad for Australia because he plays besides the line of the ball, which is always advantageous. And that shot to get to 100, some back foot play as well. So he can play those orthodox shots. So he's not just one-way traffic, getting 70% of his runs in third man and fine leg. So I'll be very excited to see how he goes. And he's a definite candidate, should walk into that Indian playing 11 at that position, maybe 5, if not 4, 5, and where the Kookaburra ball goes a little soft. Excited with the possibilities.
Australia is still some way away. This management's going to have a far trickier decision to make for the second test if a Shubman Gill is fit. But I'll wait till I poke you with that question for our lead up to the next test.
Yeah, because
Finally,
that will obviously will be the headline. Manjrekar calls for so and so to be dropped, and then if by some coincidence, Gale is not fit, KL Rahul plays and he gets a 50 or something, and then they'll all put that up, everything. See, you wanted him dropped. So I can almost see that. It's played out so many times in my life.
yes, Twitter is always keeping us excited. All right,
Yeah,
focusing back on this match
yeah.
situation, only 107 for New Zealand to do what they haven't in more than 3 decades. Whatever you've seen of the pitch and the conditions, with more rain expected in Bengaluru, is there any chance at all for India to pull something off?
Like we said yesterday, the pitch will hold the key, and the pitch hasn't deteriorated. I'll get that word out properly again. As we said yesterday, the pitch will hold the key, and the pitch hasn't really become worse or deteriorated in a way that batting will be extremely difficult against the three spinner. I think it's still a good enough pitch. So uh, I'm thinking more of New Zealand getting to the target, but you get Rachin and Devon Conway out. And then you're looking at some very uncertain batters, and Latham as well will be an important wicket. So who knows? But at the moment, you got to say the match is slightly in New Zealand's corner.
Even still, it will take a brave man to wager anything on this game, given how much it has swung and how wildly it has swung already in the 3 days of action we've seen. We leave it there and pick up the conversation at the conclusion of this thrilling Bengaluru Test match. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for your time.
Thank you.